What's up, guys? Boy, do I have a fun one for us today. Since the day I got this R3 home, I have been plagued by some kind of stumbling issue under acceleration, and even at idle too. This thing would just fall all over itself. Obviously, the first thing I did to fix it was throw a Gixxer badge on the side and a 1000 sticker on the back, but unfortunately, that did not solve the problem. And as you can see, today, picked up a multimeter and I went through every single sensor, every connection, you name it, trying to track down what the heck was going on with this bike. So today, I'm gonna walk y'all through exactly what I did to troubleshoot this thing, because thank goodness, I finally got it fixed. So my first thought was, it's gotta be fuel related, right? So it's either fuel, air, or spark. This bike had set for years. The previous owner told me, I think 2019 is the last time that he ran the bike. And as you can see here, it's got 1,641 miles on it. This is a 15 that has sat for 5 to 6 years. So I expected this to be a fuel related issue. Perhaps y'all saw the video of me cleaning out the tank. Obviously there was a ton of rust in it. So that was the first thing I did. Clean the tank out, pulled it off. You can see over here, there's a fuel pump. So previous owner, when he went to fire this bike up most recently, he said the pump would not even prime. So he went ahead and replaced the pump with what you see on the ground there. The symptoms I was experiencing, which like I said, sluggish throttle response, a little bit of popping with partial throttle, just very inconsistent power delivery. Like there'd be some power, I'd hit a wall, there'd be more, then there'd be another wall. And when I'd go to blip the throttle, the revs would just, it would stumble all over itself. So my first thought was, okay, I cleaned the tank, cool, we're good on that front. Maybe I got some junk down in the fuel rail. Maybe the injectors are dirty, which I just knew that's what the problem would be. But I also thought maybe this new pump that he put in wasn't supplying enough pressure. So I confirmed what pump it was. It was a cheap little Amazon pump, so I figured that had to be it, right? So I replaced that pump with a cheap Amazon pump, but one that actually had some solid reviews. Popped it in, guess what? Nothing different, same issue going on. Mind you, I've already changed the spark plugs. I've done a couple other things in addition to the pump, thinking that it had to be one of those two things. So I throw 4 ounces of Redline SL1 fuel system cleaner in there, take the bike for 30-45 minute ride, rip on it, trying to get that stuff moving through. That way, if there was a clog in the fuel line, in the fuel rail, or in the injectors, maybe that would push it through. Little Italian tune-up. But upon stopping after doing that, the idle became really rough. Sounded like it was cammed. It would just kind of hunt from, maybe 1700 RPM down to about 800. I thought it was gonna die. Oil pressure light came on a couple times. I mean, it was seriously bogging down. So back to the drawing board. I take everything off the bike. I take the tank off, take a look at the air filter here. It's a brand new BMC. Doesn't look like it's ever seen a particle of dust in its life. I check inside, throttle bodies look good. I check every single vacuum line connection on this bike. Everything's good. None of the rubber's dried out, which is what I was thinking. And there's a little spot underneath on the throttle bodies, these little rubber caps. I don't know if you can see it in there. Probably not. Anyway, I checked all of those connections because it seemed like maybe there's a vacuum issue here. It's hunting, blah, blah, blah. It's got to be vacuum. And it wasn't vacuum. So that's where the multimeter came in. So that's what I did today. Come to find out, underneath the seat here, we've got a 9.5-year-old lithium-ion battery. So first thing I checked was the battery, and I thought, of course, it's got to be the battery. It's almost 10 years old. Nope. Perfect voltage, battery's strong, battery's great, not the battery. So next thing I check, I go down here, check out the stator. Resistance is perfect on the stator. Huh, okay. I come over here, and I had the tank off when I did this. Check both coils. I did primary resistance and secondary. Both coils check out. Everything's good on that front. Tank back on. Test the rectifier. Voltage is perfect. Everything is great. So I'm thinking it's got to be throttle position sensor. God bless the guy I bought this bike from. I feel terrible, but I was trying to pick his brain, you know, and see what all was changed and whatnot, and if he had any ideas. And, you know, this bike it's tucked down underneath the seat there. It's got a Power Commander 5. And I had already, you know, unplugged the fuel injector piggybacks. I bypassed it. Issue still persisted, so I figured there's no possible way it could be related to the Power Commander. So he suggested I plug the Power Commander into the DynoJet software and just take a look at the TPS from that front, because his thought was if the TPS is dead, you know, you can see that in the DynoJet software. So I thought, what the heck, might as well try. So I hook that up and I load the map that is on the bike. Mind you, this got flashed back in 2016, and at the time there was just one M4 exhaust flash. So that's what was preloaded. I went on DynoJet's website, tried to download some other tunes just to see if they had like a full exhaust and a high flow air filter tune. This also has the pair valve block off plate. But yeah, I was trying to find some kind of baseline map, but decided, you know, there's no possible way it could be the Power Commander. So I'm looking at the fueling table, which I will load up on the screen here, and it's pulling fuel even at wide open throttle. And my thought was, you know, I've got this air filter on here, I've got a full exhaust. If anything, you know, being able to breathe a lot freer and get air out quicker, if anything, this thing needs more fuel. And it's pulling fuel, and it's pulling a substantial amount of fuel. And I got to thinking, I'm like, you know, it just, the walls that I'm hitting as I'm riding, it seems like inconsistencies with fueling or air or something just doesn't make sense. And I could hear it too when I'd crack the throttle open a little bit. And like, just trying to hold the throttle steady at 5,000 RPMs, as soon as I would get to, according to DynoJet software, as soon as I get to like 10, 11% throttle position, it would just go straight to redline. And I'd noticed too that the fuel adjustment, it'd add in a lot of fuel right around there. So I'm looking at this map, the fuel table, it looks all wonky. So I flash the quote unquote stock map on there, and the bike's instantly fixed. It's perfect. In this stock map that I'm looking at, I don't know if it was like a dyno tune for a stock bike, but on the fuel table, and I'll load that, it's adding fuel pretty much everywhere. So I put that on there, test it out, everything checks out, feels awesome. Bike's got like 10 times the power it did. Take it out for a test drive, perfect, everything's great. So yeah, the problem the entire time was the Power Commander. And the funny thing is, you know, you see so many videos online of people talking about, you know, how terrible a Power Commander tune is, or like a lot of these online tuners, they'll talk about getting a bike in that had a Power Commander tune and that air to fuel ratios are all jacked up. Well, I can tell you just from my experience with this bike, it's exactly what the situation was here. So the game plan moving forward is to pull the Power Commander off after I get this bike out to the track next, and then I am going to get the ECU flashed and get this thing properly set up. I'm gonna try to pop in a clip of the bike hooked up to DynoJet software when I flashed that stock map on there. So there's probably a whole lot of me making goofy sounds and talking to myself, but just so you can see how much smoother it is, I'm gonna try to impose it here. Okay, stock map, here we go. Hold it at 5 So just to recap, if your bike's feeling sluggish and you've got a power commander, I would maybe start there, because that was probably the easiest thing to mess with. But if that's not the case, invest in a decent multimeter, you know, go through all the steps, get yourself a service manual. That was extremely helpful, and finding all the connections, figuring out what level of resistance and voltage was needed. But if you guys have had anything happen like this to your R3s, let me know in the comments. Curious, you know, what your symptoms were and how you were able to fix it. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for some more track footage coming soon.